We begin with the Atlanta Hawks, and I will start us off here. They're key free agents. Everybody brace yourself. Aaron Holiday. Key extension eligible candidates, DeJounte Murray, he won't sign one. And then Onyeka Okongwu is up for his rookie extension, as is Sadiq Bey. I left him off our doc for some reason. Don't know why I did that. Their cap situation, basically, as currently constructed, they're about $10 million into the tax. They should still have the mini MLE. I think all of us expect them to duck the tax, though, this summer. They do have a notable trade exception from Justin Holiday's deal, $6.3 million. It expires on February 9th. So I have my biggest need for them, biggest needs, shooting at the 3 and the 4, and then an answer or an upgrade to the John Collins, Clint Capella, and Onyeka Okongwu triangle. And so, Grant, let's just start here. What's your biggest overarching thought leading into the offseason for the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, I think it starts with as you said, the unfortunate sort of reality that this is a team that wasn't good enough to meet expectations last season, would like to meet those expectations this season, but also has this thorny issue of we need to cut money, and those two things don't often work very well together. So it's a tricky needle to thread, shaving that $10+ million off. And remember, like they denied it up and down, I think, the ownership did, but the Kevin Huerter trade last summer was the same thing. They got a first round pick, but that was designed to duck the tax. And so that's where we are again. So yeah, overarching thought is just, how's that going to happen? Probably John Collins, maybe Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, I think too, could be someone that they look to move. Mostly because, and this ties into your other need, which I agree with, they kind of need a combo forward that can be what DeAndre Hunter was supposed to be, which is the best, a high-end defense piece that can guard multiple positions, and a guy that can not just make open threes, but do a little bit with the ball if he gets closed out on. Hunter has shown flashes of that, but due to health and just general ball handling concerns, just hasn't delivered that consistently. So that's a tricky thing. They need to improve that position. They need to cut money. So it's hard to do both of those things. And so I think what you're hoping for them is that transactionally you accomplish what you want, but that the boost from a full training camp and season of Quinn Snyder running the show just makes things work better. But yeah, so they're in an interesting spot. I think they need to be aggressive in free agency, but they may not have a lot of tools to do it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Do you have anything different? I mean, we're past the idea of trading Trae Young, it seems like, for a while. Murray, even though you might want to think about that.
Yeah, I was going to say that if something like that props up, it'll probably be closer to next offseason, to where maybe you're hoping you can work out a DeJounte Murray sign and trade, or maybe you evaluate it at the deadline. Because I was going to throw that to you, would be, what are the odds now that the front office has been fully, the regime change is complete? What are the odds that they do look to pivot and leave their mark and kind of start over? And I would say at least this summer, it feels very slim. Like, we might hear once the Bradley Beal's been traded, Damian Lillard, I think we'll talk about that more. Like that situation is just, it's a weird game of chicken happening in Portland. It feels like, like once those names are moved and then Trae Young, everyone shifts their attention to the next logical batch of candidates, which will include Trae Young. Karl-Anthony Towns is probably already there. Zion might already be there. I would be like, if we had to peg a percentage chance of it happening, I would say like sub 7% about Trae Young getting traded right now. There's always like the chance someone comes in with a monster offer, but this isn't a team. I think they're more likely to go the opposite route, which is they can trade up to, I think, 3 first-round picks this summer. They have the Kings in 2024. They can trade number 15 in this year's draft, and then they have their own 2029 available to them if they really wanted to go that route. They owe 25 and 27 to San Antonio. So, like, they could, like, there's some stuff that they could theoretically do, but when, as you mentioned, this is the challenge. How do you improve your roster while also cutting payroll? And I think, at least from my perspective, it's you move John Collins or Clint Capella attached to draft equity, and that's how you would make the upgrade. I just don't know if that's also how you would slash your payroll in the process.
Who would you rather move, assuming it's got to be Collins or Capella? Because I think there are compelling arguments for either of those guys to be the one to go if you're trimming salary.
I want to say I'd rather move Capella because you have Okongwu right there, but you do get a lot smaller because Okongwu is smaller than him. How does that impact you on the glass? It might depend on, like, look, if you were moving Clint Capella and you were getting back OG Anunoby, let's say, because this isn't a team that needs whoever they get to necessarily have ball skills, that would make me feel more confident because you know he can rumble with a bunch of centers. But it would need to be like a very specific set. I think I would rather move Collins because, but I do think the reality is if you were looking to make an upgrade while checking all of these boxes, is Capella the easier one to move just because his contract is shorter, even if you're not crazy about paying him, 2 years and 20 plus million per?
That's the thing. I don't know. That's why I posed it to you. I think my concern with Eileen Capella, just knee jerk reaction as the guy I would want to move, which flies in the face of the fact that the Hawks have been trying to trade John Collins for a couple years, just because I would be worried that another year potentially, in age for Capella could potentially reduce his value. He's a conventional center. Those guys are already really fungible. I think he's probably pretty substantially overpaid, even though he's, I don't know, is he a top 15 starting center? Probably like somewhere in the neighborhood of that.
Yeah, I would think so.
So I think he's a little overpaid for that. And as he ages, that looks worse. So it might be the type of thing where you move him just ASAP because that asset is depreciating. Collins is a little bit different because I think he's about as low in terms of value as he can be right now. So that's another factor to consider. There's certain, you start trying to talk yourself into destinations for Collins and it gets difficult just because that's a player type that, unless he's really going to be the defender he was in that conference finals run consistently, and even maybe hold up against like some bigger wings, it's hard, even if he is back to shooting 40% from three, just because of like, he's not a center. So
yeah,
they're both tricky to move, but I would say the odds are much higher than 50% that one or the other is gone before the season starts.
I'll be floored if all three of Okongwu, Capella, and Collins are there to start the season. Some free agent targets for them, again, they can use the mini MLE. I just don't know. Some of these might prove too ambitious because even if they cut salary, is it enough? Like, are they just hovering kind of right below the tax and don't want to go into it? But if you're going to move, let's say Collins, Trey Lyles, or Kevin Love should absolutely be on your radar. These guys are probably all just plain fits. If Malik Beasley's team option is declined and they want to get some just pure volume shooting in there, Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig, Utah Watanabe, and TJ Warren, are those still minimum guys? Joe Ingles is old, but like he can give you some combo forward minutes. Any other names spring to mind for them?
No, I was thinking more along the trade front, where if you're moving Collins or Capella, I think you're looking for expiring guys. Like it could be, I don't think you can go as crazy as. Well, I was going to say, like, I was trying to think of how do we get John Collins someplace where his value will immediately be rehabilitated to its fullest potential, and that's obviously Miami. So if we get him to Miami, can we just throw some extra money and make it Kyle Lowry to get, something like that, just to try to save some money down the line? But yeah, no, I think your list is good. I just think, like, looking at someone like Joe Ingles, I feel like he would weirdly kind of insulate you against the stretches where DeAndre Hunter just can't do anything with the ball. And like, he's not going to guard anybody, but just having another guy that could force a closeout and then take a dribble and make a pass or run a quick second side pick and roll, something like that would be useful. But really, this is still a team whose defense needs to improve, and Joe Ingles isn't going to help you there.
Would you, if let's just say the Thunder were willing to give you a protected first round pick straight up for Clint Capella, like, are you at the point where you would consider that a win? Like, if you could trade Clint Capella into their cap space, and you're getting a first round pick, is that enough for you to pull the trigger?
I think maybe, and that's because Okongwu is, I think everyone agrees he's kind of just the heir apparent at center, and by the time he's ready to take the job over, he's going to be due for a raise. So like, you can't just have Capella sitting there and then another guy that you're either going to let go because he's going to get too expensive, or pay a second center basically a bunch of money. So just to clear that issue down the road a little bit, might be worth it to just remove the salary from your books and get an asset. Because look, the other thing is, I mean, you mentioned they can trade first, but they're still a little bit hard up for picks because of the Murray trade. You know, I think it's another thing where they should probably be looking to make this roster better now, which means trading picks, but they also aren't in a position to they're all of their incentives kind of like work both ways. You know, they got to cut money, but they want to be better. They got to add talent, but they don't have the picks to do it. You know, they should be trying to get picks to replenish, but what are you giving up to get those? It's kind of a weird mess.
And it's also the teams that are most likely to be interested in any of Capella or John Collins specifically. They're not going to be the teams that can save you a boatload of money. Like think about if you think John Collins is a good fit for the Clippers, and it's like, all right, well, they have the salaries to get there, but like Robert Covington and Marcus Morris, who are both probably really good fits for this roster, that's like I think you might be taking on money in that scenario. And so you get into like, it would have to be 3-team scenarios. Very quickly for anyone, forgot to mention this, we need to keep ourselves within a good time frame. So there will be alarms going off at the end of each team. I've set it to a Blink-182 remix to I Miss You. It's an EDM Blink-182 remix. You're welcome. We'll get dinged for a copyright is what's going to happen. But do you expect any of these guys to get extensions? And I think specifically, we know Murray's not going to sign his, but Sadiq Bey or Okongwu?
Well, I think Bey seems unlikely because part of the reason the Pistons traded him is because he had pretty exorbitant extension demands for his production. I think he wanted something like 50 million. So I think he's likely to I would let him go to restricted free agency. If I could lock up Okongwu a little earlier with like, gosh, figuring out his number is really tricky. I don't know, 12 to 15 million a year, I would extend him, but I don't know if he's going to take that.
And then would he bet on himself if you move one of the other bigs because he thinks he's going to have a bigger role and will be able to drive up his value?
I think, well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like you'd have to almost overpay him probably to get an extension done right now. And the Hawks have done that enough that they should probably be a little leery of that.